Oh, perfect timing, guys. All right, let's stop viewing for the moment. You can always continue later, of course. But the plan here is to break down what do you think after watching the video is something that you should know from the chapter. So let's start there, all right? Now, I pretty much would have said or talked about the same thing in the video. And so it saves me time. I actually rather give it to you during the evening time so you can watch it and then come in the next day. But I just wanted to see exactly this process up close and see what you guys do. Now, the goal here is to take notes in order to see, this is kind of like just a simple way of looking at it, to see what you understand, see what you think is important, and then have any questions about the topics that come up in the video. So let's just begin to write down what you all think is important to take from the video. Let's see here. I'm just going to make this into just a blank sheet of paper. Blank. And make bigger. Okay, so what do you think is something we should take away from the video?
I'm
sorry?
Massive number of African Americans was emancipated, but their condition was not better.
Freed slaves and their condition. Ryan brings up a really good point about the condition of freed slaves after they are actually given their freedom. Can anyone describe to me their situation after the war is over and after they've gotten rights? I'm sorry, say that again.
No money.
So, no money,
No skills.
no money, no skills,
No education.
no education. Like, why is this the condition of Africans after they're freed? Why?
They were
Well, hold on for a second. Say that again, please. The black codes will happen after the Civil War. So that is a term that we should actually know, but this will happen after the Civil War is over. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. So black codes happen after the war is over. Let's go back to, once again, why do African people have no money, have no skills, and have no education?
They were slaves.
They were slaves, exactly, right? So they weren't called black codes then, they were called slave codes. They were slave codes. That's what it was. Like, slave codes were put in place 200 years ago, before this time period, that pretty much said, can't read, can't write, can't get married, can't do this, can't do that. Like, so, as Jerry mentioned, these slave codes will become black codes. They'll become black codes. Slave codes restrict African people. Black codes restrict African Americans. So that's why they have no money, no skills, no education. All right? What else can we say about the video that you think is important to know?
13th to 15th.
Ooh, nice. Yes. 13th, the 15th Amendments. What are they?
30 is about slavery. And 40 is about citizenship.
Abolish slavery. The 14th was what?
Citizenship.
Citizenship. Let's examine this one for a second. Why is that even important? Thank you. Right. Let's make a connection. Why was this needed Why was this amendment needed to the Constitution? There's an event that pretty much, there was an event that happened before this amendment that made it really crucial for Africans to have citizenship. You remember. Dred Scott, thank you. What was the problem with Dred Scott? He's property, right? He has no rights. He's a human being that has no rights. He's property. You can't sue the government. You are a piece of property. What do you mean I'm a piece of property? Like, you're a piece of property, dude. You can go now. So, yeah. 15th Amendment? Vote. For who? Say it again, please.
Male.
Say that one more time, ladies. Male. Males. Black men get the right to vote. What about the women?
No.
How come?
They don't win.
Good. Thank you. That's the yes. Yes. Sorry, ladies. Sorry, ladies. I know y'all look pretty today. Look at all these ladies looking pretty today. No, you can't vote. Sorry. No. Nope. Sorry. Sorry. You gotta wait. You have to wait. You have to wait. 1919. It's almost there. We're almost there. It's almost happening. All right. 1919 is that'll be your year, ladies. Yes. So we've got so far freed slaves condition, good. Black codes, good. 13, 14, and 15 amendments, also really good. What else?
Jones. People, the freeman.
Freeman's Bureau.
Yeah,
Yes. What was this?
Slaves.
Yeah. So, pretty much their condition forced the government to start this agency. That's what happens. They've got no money. They've got no skills. They got no education. That's what the Freeman's Bureau does. Gives them money, gives them skills, gives them education. Like, does it explain to you exactly how effective it was? How effective was the Freeman's Bureau? Does it go into detail about how effective?
3,000 schools were built.
So yeah, 3,000 schools were built. Anything else that came up?
No land,
Say it again.
but they never give them land.
What was the problem with land? What was the issue with land?
Sharecropping.
Well, sharecropping will eventually be something that the African Americans and poor whites actually do, but you guys are math oriented, aren't you? Some of you guys are doing, I know you're doing AP right now, and other kids eventually will do AP stuff. Let's say you've got 1 million people who are now freed, and they all want land to grow crops. What potentially could be a problem?
Or exploited.
Part of it could be that. Part of it could be the land is just, yeah, it could be land that was exploited or land that's actually not really good. That could be definitely part of the reason with the problem with this land distribution.
Who's going to grow food?
Well, typically it's going to be the African people who were trained to always grow food in the past anyway. So it's not a problem. It's not a problem of who grows the food or not. Thank you. That's a problem. You got 1 million people who want land. There's not enough land to actually grow stuff. See, in theory, this is supposed to help them acquire land. A problem, though, there's not enough land to actually give them. There's not enough resources to give to these freed people. That's a problem. I tell you this story, and I probably already told you this story before, but I became an educator because my ancestor was an educator. He was about 18, 19, 20 years old when this stuff is happening. He grew up in St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, and he was taught by a reverend from my home state. He learned how to read and write from a reverend. And when he was of age, they came to New Jersey. They wanted to apply to the Rutgers Theology School, which is now Rutgers University. He was denied access to education because he was black. And so he decided that he was going to go to Africa to become a teacher. And eventually he became the president of Liberia College. So, to me, education is the key to success. The key. I don't care how poor you are or how rich you are. If you have a proper education, you can do a lot. So education is the most important thing I think that the Freedmen's Bureau does give to the people, the African people. 3,000 schools as mentioned before. What you're going to see happen, when people have an education, what tends to happen? Say it again. Better jobs, what else? What else happens when you have an education?
Less chaos.
Less chaos, better society. What else?
Right.
Maybe better rights for people because now they understand what rights mean. The economy may increase because of this. Like there's so much plus side to education, very little minus or negative side to education. Now, for every Obama, sadly, there is a Hitler out there. So education can be really good or it can be really bad. But education overall, I think, allows for progress. The more people who can read and write, the better society is. So education, I think, is key to this movement for free African people who don't know how to read, who don't know how to write. Really important. What else can we say about the video? Lincoln's plan. Ooh, that's right, Lincoln's plan. What was Lincoln's plan? Good. 10%. Can anyone describe to me what the hell this 10% is all about?
Southern states rejoined the Union.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to accept the emancipation.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Jasmine. If a southern state wants to join the Union, all it has to do is just vote 10%. Nice, right? 10%, right? So, if you think about it for a moment, right? Think about it. You are a southern man who just lost the war, right? And in order for you to join the Union again, all you have to do is vote 10% of the state has to say 10% yes. That's a pretty sweet deal, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine if, Trump went to North Korea, right? And he said, okay, we won't bomb you if you just give us, 10% of North Korea. Right? No, let's not say that. That's a bad example, right? Let's just say that you have to give us 10%. What does North Korea even have?
Bomb.
10%? That's all they have is bombs, right? I don't know what they're really... Huh?
The president's had a lot of fat.
Oh, 10% of his fat. There you go, right? That's a whole lot. Okay, so imagine if you don't have to give up 10% of his fat. That's a sweet deal. That's a sweet deal when you think about it. So for the southern states, that's a pretty sweet deal, right? Would anyone go against that policy? Hmm? Say it again, please. Congress. Does anyone know what Congress's plan was? 50%. Thank you. Anyone know the name of that, by the way? Thank you, Wade Davis. The Wade Davis plan. Now, why would Congress want 50%?
They hate him.
Thank you so much, right? Those damn Southerners and what they did. Yeah! They don't deserve to come back in here. And if they do come back in here, they've got to give us 50%, not 10%. Let's ask this question. Why did Lincoln want 10%?
He wanted a union.
Thank you. He needed this stuff to end. We got to get past this. We got to move on. Remember, how many people died in this war? 600,000. Yeah. I always forget, the way you say numbers and the way I say numbers are completely different. But yeah, you were probably right. You're just like, what do you say? No, you're right. Yeah, you do the math in your head, like, yeah, that's right. Yeah. 600,000 dead. Remember Gettysburg? 30,000. 3 days. 3,000. That's like half my city, half my town. Excuse me, not city because cities are like half my town is destroyed in Gettysburg. I mean, that's how many people died in Gettysburg. One battle. So Lincoln is like, we got to unify. Congress, revengeful. Who controls Congress? Who controls Congress? Let me rephrase it. Which political party controls Congress? Republican, right? Lincoln is a Republican, right?
Yeah.
But let's describe the difference between the President of the United States and Congress. Let's not use Trump, because Trump's a really bad example. But what is the difference between the President of the United States versus a member of Congress? Because they are different. And what they're both politicians, but they're different.
The president sees for the whole United States,
Whereas a congressperson thinks about
like their own party.
partly their own party, but also what else? Themselves, right? Like that's the thing. See, so my brother, actually my brother-in-law, he works for the senator of Connecticut. He works for Richard Blumenthal, who's a senator from Connecticut. Richard Blumenthal has to think about himself and his state before his country, because the way he gets elected again and again is the people of Connecticut, not the country. So any congressperson has to think about himself and his state or his district. A Republican in Congress is thinking about the North and his district, not about the country. Lincoln is the president of the United States. So he has to be in the middle for the most part. He's got to be in the middle. He can't just think about Illinois or the North. He's got to think about the entire country. Now, sadly, there are presidents out there who don't think about the entire country. There's one in particular I'm thinking about right now, who's thinking more about himself than the country. I might be biased. That might be an opinion, but I feel as though the current president thinks more about himself than the country. That's another story. Anything else about the video? Reconstruction Act. What the hell is that? Ah, the districts. Yes, 5 districts. So the Reconstruction Act, is it related to Reconstruction era? Or is it related to what Lincoln thinks is Reconstruction? No. Why did they do this? So now the reason they said is because the North can have more control over the South. Why would they need more control over the South, though? It's in progress. But the North had won the war, right? And so the South had lost. Why would they need this to be put in place? There is a reason why they needed to go into the South and do these 5 districts. Does anyone know why? Did the video give you some insight to why they were doing this?
Yeah, because a lot of Confederate generals were in the office.
That's part of it. That's part of it. He's closer than everyone else right now. Say that again, please. They're not just afraid of a rebellion. What's actually happening?
Election.
How is the Southerners responding to the end of the war?
Assassination.
Well, Lincoln was assassinated. That's one response to the end of the war. But what's happening in the South when the war is over?
Election.
Not just elections. They're disappointed to the point of doing what? not, I won't say rebellion so much, but just protesting, yes. What is going to happen is that Southern people are going to begin to, sorry, I'm having a moment too. Southern people are beginning to protest to the point of rebellion. They are revolting. Did the video mention anything about a new organization that comes into power? Yeah, maybe you got, yeah. So that's what, maybe that's a good place to. So I want to continue because I have a couple. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, because I just want to make sure that whatever this is.
Where's Simon? See as soon as you're done.
Can we talk later? Let's talk later about that. All right. So the next thing I want to do is this. Can I erase this? Is it okay to? Okay. Now, I want to examine this question.